You literally cannot boycott Israel and listen to what they're saying. You're an anti-Semite. Let's stop with this charade. Why is this so complicated?
It's amazing how, how ignorant some of these people are, pro-Palestinian activists. They lead the charge. They say that you have to boycott Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Starbucks. Those are the three main companies that they are actively campaigning against. But they just don't realize that it basically encompasses just about all of their technology. And they use and they utilize this technology.
Right. The funny thing, by the way, about that is that Starbucks isn't even in Israel. I don't even know where they're picking on Starbucks. Starbucks is not even in Israel. There is McDonald's in Israel, but you can't. You literally cannot boycott Israel. It's absurd to even, I see some of these BDS people, some of these people who are anti-Israel trying to boycott Israel, and they're using Wix as their platform to build their website. Wix is an Israeli company. So these people have no clue what the hell they're talking about. But it is, you got to bang your head in the wall or you got to laugh. And I laugh. I just laugh at all these people. Like, good luck boycotting Israel. Absolutely impossible.
Starbucks, ironically, as far as I know, is a woke company. It's far left, and I believe they don't support Israel, which is ironic.
Yep. I don't know why people are picking on Starbucks. I really don't. I don't know where that came from. They're not even in Israel, and they've said nothing to support Israel. It's absurd.
They had a Jewish CEO, I think, or founder, a Jewish founder. I think that's the only
that's
reason.
That's the crux of the issue, right? Is he's Jewish and therefore what, right? Jewish content creators on the internet are being harassed day and night in their comments, about Israel. And some of these people have never stepped foot in Israel, have not even associated with Israel. Some of them are not even Zionists, and they're being attacked. Why? Because they're Jews. So those that claim, we're not anti-Jewish, we're just anti-Zionist, and explain to me why synagogues and Jewish institutions and Jewish content creators are being attacked when they have absolutely nothing to do with Zionism.
Thousands of terrorists, including Sinwar, they were released for Gilad Shalit, so for one soldier. And then these terrorists went on to basically perpetuate the October 7th attack. There seems to be a track record. So they're releasing hostages for one hostage or a couple of hostages, a bunch of dead bodies, for thousands of terrorists who then go on to commit even worse atrocities. Do you have any concerns that perhaps in the future we might see something worse than October 7th?
I want to believe that Israel learned its lesson. I think that we were sleeping at the wheel kind of thing. I think that, we were like, Hamas didn't partake in the last rounds of violence, so they must be a peaceful organization all of a sudden, right? And I think that we were very naive, and we were just not paying attention to what's happening on the border. And we know that there were soldiers who warned the Israeli leadership that there's something going on the border of Gaza. And in a very Israeli-like way, we were just like, it'll be okay. And so I want to believe that could never happen again. But you know what? I never imagined in my wildest, darkest dreams that October 7th could happen. So I don't, who knows?
Yeah, that was really mind-boggling, because Israel apparently had the most sophisticated, most secure border in the world with high surveillance. And in addition to that, the female guards that were along the border that were warning their Israeli superiors were basically intimidated into silence. So I find that quite bizarre, to say the least.
Yeah, there's many questions surrounding October 7th. Obviously that's one of them, but more fundamentally, something that I've yet to hear an answer to is, where was everyone for 8 hours? Because if I'm in the all the way north, let's say I'm at the end of Israel, right? And there's an attack all the way south, a helicopter ride would be like a half hour. Where was everyone for 8 hours? And again, an hour, 2 hours, they were in shock. No one knew what was going on. 3 hours, 8 hours, where the heck was everyone? So there are many questions about this, how Hamas did what they did, how Israel didn't react. Many questions that I believe we'll probably be investigating for many years into the future.
There's a lot of talk about there being a Holocaust in Gaza, about famine and mass starvation amongst the Gazans and genocide. And yet you see these people that are properly dressed. They look like they're well fed, unlike the hostages, and they've got their smartphones out and they're celebrating and they're filming this whole spectacle. It just flies in the face of all of the propaganda, and people still believe in it.
Yeah, it's wild. It really is wild. I'll tell you, you don't have to be a Middle East expert. You don't have to know anything about history. Forget what happened in the past, okay? Right now, if you're speaking up against Israel, just listen and pay attention to the things that you're saying. The same people who are saying globalize the Intifada, which means literal bring radical Islamic violence to everywhere, are the same people who are calling for a ceasefire, which is literally the opposite of Globalize the Intifada, right? The same people who are saying from the river to the sea, which literally means erase Israel, are the same people calling for a two-state solution. Which one is it? The same people who are saying that hostages are being fed well in Gaza are the same people saying there's starvation in Gaza, right? The same people that saying that they're an open air prison in Gaza, and that they're refugees are the ones complaining when they're being offered to relocate to a better place, right? The same people who are saying they're all suffering there are walking around with their Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultras in Gaza, taking all these high definition videos. The same people who are saying, oh, October 7th was our proudest day in our history, we'll do it over and over and over again, are the same people saying Israel's lying. It's staggering how their own narrative contradicts itself. You don't have to prove them wrong. They do it themselves. It's wild to see. And again, otherwise intelligent people, otherwise moral people, for some reason, when it comes to the Jews, all logic goes out the window and they believe these ridiculous lies that, again, you don't have to know anything. You just have to listen to what they're saying. They're contradicting themselves. It's wild and staggering to see.
And they're not just openly calling for the destruction of Israel, in America, in Australia, in the UK. They're also openly calling for the destruction of their own host nations. In That's Australia, they refer to Australia as a colony. They ally themselves with the indigenous movement of Australia, or they claim to be sympathetic towards them, but it's just an opportunistic grift on their part. And they're openly calling for the destruction of Australia, of America, and terrorism. So they're not just a threat to Israel. They're a threat to their host countries. And a lot of people seem to be asleep.
Yeah. It's, again, there's the list of irony, the ironic things on the list of things that they say. It's this. They say, we're fighting for the Palestinian people, right? And yet, when the Palestinian people say what they want, they state clearly what their intention is. They're like, yeah, they don't mean it. They don't mean it. Like, we're supporting you and we're not listening to you, right? Radical Islam is quite clear, what their mission is. There's no debate about this. And yet the woke left-leaning, people in the West simply refuse to, not only do they refuse to recognize it, but anybody who recognizes radical Islam and how much of a global cancer it's become is labeled an Islamophobe. It's like, wait a second, you're fighting for them, but you won't listen to them. It's like they're saying we want to kill all infidels and America's the Satan. And the people who are fighting for those same people are like, yeah, they don't mean it. It's like, dude, if you're fighting for them, listen to what they're saying.
And you speak about the woke left. Obviously, on the right, there's always been a lot of strong support for Israel. But are you starting to see a shift and a change in attitudes on the right?
I mean, it's hard to kind of clearly categorize, but, if we're looking at the Republican Party versus the Democratic Party, it's quite clear. I mean, the Democratic Party has become basically an anti-Semitic party. Not to say every single person in the party is anti-Semitic, but the tolerance level that they have for clear anti-Semitism is nauseating, right? And again, not to say there aren't anti-Semites on the right. Of course there are. In fact, I would say that the far right and the far left have absolutely nothing in common except for one thing, and that is the hatred of the Jew. Which is just, again, begs the question, what did the Jewish people do to be hated so much? All they did was good things in this world. Israel leads the way in cancer research. Jewish people have been disproportionately awarded Nobel Prizes. The Jewish people have been a source of light in the world. And so why are we hated so much? It's a fundamental question I've struggled with my entire life. But the reality is that the left, the Democratic Party and the woke culture and the left has become, blatantly anti-Semites, right? I mean, I think the whole, we're not anti-Semitic, we're only anti-Zionist. People have to realize how absurd that statement is. Like, Zionism is as core to Judaism as Jesus is to Christianity. You can't ignore Zionism if you're a Jew. Jews prayed to Zion, which is Jerusalem, for thousands of years, right? So you can't separate the two. Furthermore, forget theology. If you're anti-Zionist, then you are stating you do not believe that the Jewish people, especially after what they experienced in World War II and the Holocaust, do not deserve a safe haven, do not deserve a state of their own in a world with tens of Muslim and Christian countries. The Jews do not deserve a single state. If you're saying that, then you're an anti-Semite. Like, why is this so complicated? If you're against Zionism, if you're against the Jews going back to their indigenous homeland to settle the land after thousands of years of exile and being massacred and butchered in endless countries, you do not believe the Jews deserve a home, then you're anti-Jewish. Like, let's stop with this charade of like, I'm not an anti-Semite, I'm just anti-Zionist. That's ridiculous. You cannot separate the two.